Have you ever believed in a vision so much so that you will do everything you can and even beyond your own capabilities to make it happen? Do you have a sense of purpose that is so significant that you're willing to take no for an answer time and again? In this episode of Beam Forward, we're speaking with Matt Oon, who will share with us his journey to achieving something that he's always dreamed of. So Matt, thank you for joining us today. So tell us a little bit about Acceset and what was your vision when you first started putting it together?
So Acceset is a digital platform that provides mental health support. We curate a community of befrienders and moderators who are members of the public, and we train them in digital empathy skills and emotion coaching skills to provide good support for anyone who seeks help. Our vision, so if you look at Acceset, it comprises the word accept and reset, and what we really want to do is to empower people to accept care and reset lives, and this results in increased social participation and economic opportunities, especially for caregivers. So that's our vision.
So what inspired you to go onto this social entrepreneurship journey?
To be very honest, it was something that struck me like as a good way to apply what I think I have and contribute to society. But I never thought that I would become an entrepreneur until the opportunity came along. So I was actually volunteering with Health Promotion Board. At that time, you volunteer, you do many things to get scholarships and stuff, right? And it was a very close issue to my heart, like because my mom has had schizophrenia. So the whole project of anonymous support by peer for peer made a lot of sense to me, but they had to close down that platform, and we have to tell all the users one by one that we will no longer be around. At the same time, there was an increase in youth suicide, and the kind of answers we are hearing from the leadership is that we have a robust system, help is available, and I just think that maybe we can do something better. Technology probably has to figure as a solution, and that was what gave me, this combination of factors made me go into this area.
I know you told me in our past conversations that the journey, since the founding of Acceset in 2015 till now hasn't been easy. You had a lot of knockbacks, and so what gave you the impetus to continue?
So some of the knockbacks that I commonly received, I think I was like a student then, so the counselors were like, I think they were very encouraging at the start when I was a student, the charity organizations too, but I think when you graduate and you're still doing this, then I think they start to question the credibility. It was very difficult because your peers look at you and they think this is not a commercial idea, why do this? Then the professionals look at you and they don't think that you are able to solve this problem. So I felt that in such a challenging environment, unless you have a real belief that this is a real problem, unless you like really dig deep and find the knowledge and build up the capabilities, I think it's very hard to sustain. So maybe what really helped me was that mental health is a very real problem. There's a lot to learn, and maybe I'm a little bit stubborn also, if you can say.
And I know that when you talk about, we also talk a little bit about skill sets, right?
Yes.
And you told me that you are not a coder, and you are not a perhaps a finance person and so forth, but along the way you managed to raise funds to collate the help that you need to collate and develop the platform accordingly. So what sort of advice have you received in the past, and what sort of money have you collated over the period of time?
So even though I'm not a coder, I was very fortunate that when I reached out to the community, to the meetup groups, the coders can see the value of what I'm trying to do, and they offered to work with me pro bono. So that was really where I learned how to work with developers, and I think one thing led to another. Over 2 years, my business mentor could see that I was quite serious about this, and he offered to put some money so that I can put together a team to build up this thing. I think the most practical advice that was given to me was not to be so naive, because I feel like at 24, 25 years old when you start this thing, you have a very rosy picture of how everybody will be so happy, that you found a good solution. You are really trying to solve this problem. I remember my investors say, just don't be so idealistic. And later on, the challenges I faced, kind of proved him right. And what remains to me today is that belief, even though I face a lot of different obstacles, I still want to solve this problem. That's really what kind of like keeps me going.
And so how much funds have you managed to raise, and why is that journey of fundraising important to you?
So over the course of 5 years, I would say that if you combine grants and investments, it is like somewhere above 300 to 400,000. A lot of the fundraising process involves clarifying your problem statement, developing good solutions, and even with your best effort, I would say that luck plays a big role. But I think the world is quite fair, because when the opportunity comes, it goes to the people who has been most prepared for it. So I would say that for mental health, I didn't come in only after it became a popular thing. I have been working on the problem statement, the solution, and I was very lucky. When it became a popular thing, more resources was put into it, I was ready.
How frustrating it must have been. I mean, as I listening to you, right? So when people say that, oh, you're still young, don't be idealistic, or every time when you are asking for funds, you are asked to re-clarify your vision and your mission. So how frustrating was that journey, and how do you keep it going?
I think that it was quite challenging, because at the early stage you don't have a lot on your plate. So what else can I look forward to other than more cold calls, grant application, product development? But I also accept that it is difficult for a reason, because I'm new, because it's an unproven entity, and generally earning people's money is difficult, right? So I feel that I can afford to try, especially because I've worked hard in school to reduce my student loan. So some people will have to do a full-time job, primarily because they see their loan, right, 50,000. Mine is 10,000. I'm okay to try for 1 year, but I think the learning is very important. And I will say that even though the grants are difficult, it gives you a very good foundation. Very challenging, but I think clarity is very important in order to get to the next stage.
And were there any point in time that you wanted to give up? And if so, why didn't you give up?
I've always had the timeline of 1 year. So if after 1 year, despite my best efforts, there is no tangible progress, then maybe it's time to cut losses, right? I think that when I was in 2016, I was going to cut my loss in 2017. So my last ditch effort was get the developers, drive Uber, and then I crashed my car. Then my mentor was like, okay, you didn't have to do that. I'll give you some money to start. It's okay, I have money. Let's try another year. I got the product out. Then I went to the charities, then they say, oh, sorry, we can no longer do this. But they were very encouraging when I was a student, right? Yeah, we want you to change the world, kind of stuff. And I think at that time, I applied for the Queen's Young Leader Award on this platform called Youth Op. It was one of those forms, like in that year when you don't have much to do, any competition, any kind of like validation, you go for it, because you recognize that you need help, right? And it's one of those things that you feel and you don't even like think about it. So I was very surprised when they actually called me. They shortlisted me. So, like, they told me there were about 5,000 applicants, and there were about 4 that was shortlisted, and they asked for like community impact, which I didn't have because the charity like just dropped out of my project, right? It was just one of the talks that I did. I put that as like my community impact, and eventually they called me, they called me to give me the award. To me, that was a very touching moment, because after like missing out on so many business plan competition, you lose out to ideas like a Facebook page that help companies to find interns for free, because they can raise $500, they win this kind of competition. And you want to solve this mental health problem, and you cannot produce any number. You feel like when you have lose so many times, and suddenly somebody say, oh, actually this thing is good, and you win, you feel like you didn't deserve it. So I asked them, what's the basis? I need to know, that this is fair, not like some affirmative action. And they told me that we believe in your potential and the potential of your idea. I think that kind of thing has a very transformative impact.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So tell us that moment in 2018 when you met the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth II. So describe that moment for us. What did it feel like for you?
It was actually quite fast an experience. It was also very bittersweet. Sweet because that's the kind of like whole point, right? Like you go there to receive the award. But also sad because immediately after receiving the award, the next day, all of us are going back to our respective nations to do what we were recognized to do. And I felt like what made the whole experience really special was that the royal family was willing to put resource to give us a leg up, some kind of leadership support, recognition, being the first people to believe in us, which I think really helped my work a lot, because after that I was able to get an investment. I feel like when I reached out to my peers to work together, they had some basis to believe that I have a bit more credibility, you know what I mean? So those things matters. I would say that it informed my leadership thinking, and it informs the kind of company I want to build. So maybe previously it was all about results, GPA, who can work harder. I think now I think a bit more about the values. Like you kind of like dig deeper. Okay, I got this right, and they recognize this. There must be certain values I have that is worth replicating, looking out for. I think it makes me a bit more human-centric, and to see the good in people, see their potential, harness that, because that was what they did for me, and this is the best way I can give them their ROI, by paying it forward to the next people I work with.
That's beautiful. So if I were to ask your mentors in the earlier days why they choose to invest in you, what did they see in you that they really want to say, you know what, here's some money, try harder? What do you think they would say to me?
I think maybe part of what I'm doing reminded him of what he had to go through at the start. And I know for a fact that when he started his business, it was as a result of a crisis. He was laid off. He put together a team, and his uncle gave him that first pot of capital. So he wants to pay it forward, and just try. To him is a small sum. To me, it's a very big sum, right? It's 10,000. I can immediately start work. So I would say that there is that element of giving back, and I think there's also the element of him recognizing that I'm doing it not to get rich overnight, but I'm doing it because I really want to solve this problem. Yes, I don't have your counseling cert and all these things, but I really believe that there must be a better way to do this, and I'm really curious, why is it that nobody is working on that better way? So maybe there's something that it's a space left for me to play.
In the past, have you ever experienced social pressure along the way? Yes. Because obviously you have schoolmates who are doing something that may be a little bit more commercially acceptable or looked up upon in a society. Whether it's banking or into legal or doctor or anything like that. So did you go through that social pressure of what am I doing here?
I come from a low-income family, and I didn't come in with the privilege of being offered scholarship from day one. So what I did was I overloaded all my modules. When everybody was doing 4, I was doing 6, just so that I can save 1 year of school fees. From May until December, like the whole year, people are going to be asking you, and the next year, right, what job are you doing? Is this a real job? So I actually am affected by the pressure, And what I did was I reserved one module so that I will stay in school. I have one module that I get like partial payment on, prorated, so that I can just work in stealth mode, the startup entrepreneurship. But eventually you have to graduate, right? So people find out, oh, okay, so he's doing startup. And I think some of my closest family members, extended family, they did check in with me. They say, you already know your mom is like that. Do you even think it's a financially responsible decision?
How did that make you feel when you hear that comment?
No, I can understand where they come from. Money is important. But my thinking was, because I've seen bigger problems. I helped my parents collect debt, and I know that my situation is not perfect. And I just don't see how following this path of taking a job that starts with 3K and kind of stuff, I just don't see how my problem will be solved. So what's wrong with taking some kind of risk that could have upside potential? On the other hand, I already come from a poor family. So what's wrong with being poor for more year? You know what I mean? And at least you get to do what you truly believe in. So I think I was in a very naive state. I just want to solve this problem, full stop. Don't change my mind. And if it doesn't work, I set a stop loss after 1 year. Yeah, I've tried everything. I'm just not the right person. It's okay, then I'll go and get the job. But at that time when I make that decision, yes, I'm gonna put down $79 to start this sole proprietorship. I need to commit to it and do my best. I don't want to have any regrets. I think those factors overrided the concerns about financials and savings. Yeah.
I think that from just hearing, what you shared, I almost can see that you've come full circle. Yeah, 5 years ago, someone was paying it forward and let you be the beneficiary, right? And then now, 5 years later, your mindset has been elevated to think that way, like the values, the purpose. How can we pay it forward as a society that can help someone who's a little bit more vulnerable compared to ourselves? So, what do you think in the next 5 years, that version of Matt? What do you think that version of Matt will look like?
Very much depends on what happens with the company, how we continue to improve our products and engage different stakeholders. But I think one possible aspiration that we can work towards is to be a really good business, and to just make a point that business is not about maximizing profit, but profit that serves a purpose. So I'm a social enterprise. Nobody's gonna say because you're a social enterprise, therefore I need to pay for your stuff. You need to be as good, if not better than the commercial enterprise. We have to beat them at their game, but also we have to beat the charities at their game. Yes, you say that you have a great cause, millions of budget, but I don't see much output and outcome. I think I can do it at half your budget, 10% of your budget, 10 times the impact. So I feel that there is a very, very good reason why we should look at social enterprise, because I think if we succeed, we are the entity that will be most incentive aligned to maximize the opportunities, look at the problems. So I will be thinking about taking on bigger risks. A lot of beneficiaries need a job at the end of the day to consume the services that is made by the charities. It's a different conversation, Not every commercially driven company wants to take them in. I want to look at how it's possible for us to do this, but I must first make sure the business works.
Final question. What advice would you have for others who have gone through a lot? They have a dream, they are chasing their dream, they're getting beaten down, they are tired, they are poor, they are just at the brink of giving up, right? So at that point, what advice would you have for them?
I think they would already know that it is not a straightforward journey. And the reason is because when they develop something better, given how scarce the world is, someone's going to make worse off. And those people whose interests are compromised are not going to sit there and be happy and let you run the show. And I think there is a lot of power in relationships, in reaching out. And personally, I've benefited a lot on platforms like LinkedIn. I think that's also how we got acquainted. It is very weird, but the way to think about your problem is to maybe de-emphasize the self, look externally. And I think the better we are at that, empathizing with others, connecting with others, the more we can bring back the input to help our own issues. So that's a mindset that I would advocate.
Perfect. Thank you very much.